could do a corona themed one. Vegan, vegetarian bit. It just makes complete sense. Like, no? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Hope everyone is being safe and responsible and happy and lovely. Carrying on like normal this week, I was like, I could do a corona themed one, but then I was like, no, we all need a break from corona bits. So we're gonna continue on like normal and just talk about some feminist bits. So this week's actually going to be a little bit different. It's not super feminist focused, but it's basically about how we treat people who are trying to do good in the world. So it's something I've been passionate about for a really long time. So I'm going to kind of talk about two things. One, how we treat people individually who are trying to do good in the world. And then two, how that kind of manifests itself, I guess, or kind of like goes deeper into the kind of whole kind of charity sector, or like how we treat it as like a business, like when trying to actually kind of, I suppose, make money from doing good. And obviously the reason I'm interested in this is because obviously as a feminist I want to do good, but also I'm like, oh, I want to make money, and that's kind of my whole angle. But this can be said for anyone. This can be said for people, you know, who are interested in climate change, or people who are, you know, into kind of, you know, vegan, vegetarian bits, or people who, basically anyone doing any kind of good work. This can be for you. So let's get started. So basically, yeah, how we treat people as individuals. I've been fascinated by this for a really long time, and I've noticed it a lot. It's like, you know, say if one person like me is, say, advocating for, you know, feminism and people being less sexist, we're then kind of held to this perfect standard of like, well, you have to be everything. You have to be, because you're a feminist and you're preaching to everyone to be, you know, good and be not sexist, then you also have to save the environment. You have to save the animals. You have to save the homeless. You have to do everything. And it's something I've noticed that like people who then do absolutely nothing nothing is expected of them because they're not preaching anything. Say me, if I'm here preaching feminism, but then I say, you know, eat meat, or I say maybe don't donate to a homeless charity. It's like, oh, like, you know, who do you think you are? Like, you're, you know, here preaching feminism, but you're not actually helping anyone. And it's like, well, I am. I'm doing my bit. I can't do everything, but I'm doing something. Whereas people who do absolutely nothing at all, like, because they're not preaching or they're not saying anything, nothing is expected of them. So they're held to this way lesser standard. Like if they eat meat, or if they, you know, do something sexist, it's like, oh, well, you know, they don't preach it anyway. So like, you know, like, of course they're going to do that. Like they're kind of just let off. Whereas like if someone who is like me saying, yeah, don't be sexist, guys, be nice people. If I then say, you know, eat meat or whatever, as I said, it's like, oh, well, you obviously don't care that much about, you know, social justice or whatever. So I think it's really, really interesting. And I think we need to just be nicer to people in general. I think we need to be easier on people who are at least doing something. Like I'm not perfect, but I'm at least doing something. And I think I'm always very open with my shortcomings. And then I think, you know, people who say aren't doing anything, I think obviously you can put pressure on people to do stuff, but I do think we do need to be a bit more like, you know, raise the standard a bit. Like, okay, you know, you don't have to be perfect, but you can do something. You know, don't just say like, oh, well, of course they're eating meat because they don't do anything anyway. Like, let's say, well, no, I mean, you can do something, you know. I think it's just there's kind of this double standard, and I think we're all like, everyone is at least trying to do something. So let's be easier on people while having this high standard and encouraging people to do better in a fair way. So that's kind of something I've been wanting to say for a really long time, and I think it's really interesting. So yeah, let's just be nicer people. And then onto how that kind of, I guess, manifests itself in the working world. So obviously a lot of people are trying to do good. We expect people who are trying to do good to do it for free, or like we think it's kind of like this like dirty thing to try and make money for doing good. And I think it's fascinating. And basically I've been thinking of this for a long time now, because I watched this YouTube video from this kind of, he was the head of a big charity, he's a big kind of social entrepreneur, his name is Dan Pallotta, and I'll link it below as well. But he has this really interesting talk, so I'll kind of give a synopsis of it in this video because I think it's fascinating and it can really change the way we think about this kind of stuff. So he divides his talk up into 5 categories. So the first one he talks about is money. So we have it in our heads, and he gives a really good description of why, but we have it in our heads that if you're doing good work, then you can't be paid for it. Like, you know, if you're a charity, then it's dirty for you to be making money. But that's so insane, because it's like, well, surely the person who's doing good deserves a lot of money. But then we don't blink an eyelid at, say, a CEO of a for-profit big corporation that's doing absolutely no good for the world. We don't blink an eyelid at them making, you know, €500,000 a year. Whereas we say to someone running a charity that's doing amazing work, oh, you know, you have to either do it for free or it has to be really cheap. And if you're making, you know, a lot more money, then there's something wrong, there's something seedy, and your character is called into question. And I think it's so crazy to me that we have that double standard. And again, it's like, you know, it's kind of like we expect nothing from people who are doing no good, and we expect everything from people who are doing good. We expect them to want to do it for free because it's good work. No, like, I mean, if we paid people what they deserve for doing good work, then more people would do more good work. Like, we're forcing people into doing these, you know, shitty like corporate jobs because it makes more financial sense, and you can't blame someone either for wanting to do that. Like, you want to go where the money is. But if we changed our thinking and we said, okay, well, you actually should get money and should get paid a lot for doing good work, then more people would go into that sector and we have more good stuff happening. It makes so much sense, guys. And also, just because of that, we lose out on so much talent. Like, there could be so many good things that happen in this world, so many good innovations, so many people being helped in this world, but all those people who have those ideas are having to choose between doing good or making money. And like, you can't blame someone for wanting to make money. So like, oh, it's just, we're losing out on so much talent, guys. And also, a lot of times it's actually cheaper to say, you know, work for a big corporation and then give the extra money that you make to charity, and then you might get a tax relief or whatever. So you can totally understand why people would want to go into that field, but it's like, well, why don't we just, instead of giving the money that's in the corporate field, just give them to them in the good field or whatever, then they can do that stuff full time. It just makes complete sense. Like, no. The guy Dan Pallotta also talks about things like advertising. Like in business, they say, if you want to make money, you have to invest money. Like, so you invest in advertising, you get more customers. Whereas, why don't we apply that logic to charity? Like, people think like, oh, the money has to go directly to like the people who need it, which is totally fair and a total fair assumption. But it's like, what about if we put that into advertising and marketing like we do in business, get way more people to donate, way more people to get involved in charity, and then we can help way more people. Like, again, it makes complete sense. He also talks about the ability to take a risk. So like in business, if you like take a risk, it doesn't pay off, it's like, grand, okay, we'll start again tomorrow. If in like the charity sector or whatever, if you take a risk, if you lose money that people have donated or like, you know, invested, then it's like the worst thing. And obviously it's like that money is ideally going to people who need it. But it's like, if social entrepreneurs and people who are doing this good work, if they're afraid to take risks, then there's so much, again, ideas and innovation that we're just not getting in this world. Sometimes you have to take risks and sometimes you do fail. But it's like, they're so afraid to take risks, which may end up leading to amazing things. And it's like, because we're so afraid to take risks, there's probably so many good ideas that are just not being realised. He also talks about time. So a lot of the time, businesses, you invest and you may not see your return on that investment for years and years and years. Whereas with charity, if you give money, we expect to see fruits of that money being realised straight away. Like, there's no time in between, you know, for you to say, you know, building up your customer base, building up awareness, building up, you know, kind of a charity sector around it. We want to see investment straight away. And so there's just this extra pressure. And again, we just treat these sectors completely differently. And I just think we shouldn't, because the charity sector would just do so much better if we actually treated it more like a business. And finally, he talks about basically return on investment. So with businesses, like, people are incentivized to invest in companies because they will then get money back. Whereas again, you know, it's deemed horrific if a charity gives back money to its investors, because it's like, well, the money should be going to the needy. So why would anyone invest in a charity if they're not going to get anything back? Whereas if we treated a charity more like a business and said, yeah, well, if you invest, you may get money back or you may get some kind of benefit from this, and more people would invest in charity, then we'd have more money to help people. Like, it just makes complete sense. And like, this video has really changed my whole thinking of it, and I really think everyone should watch it, but that's kind of just a short synopsis of it. Basically, I just think like we just treat people who are doing good with such a high standard and a different standard, and I think we need to just completely rethink our way of doing it. And as I said, like, you know, be easier on people who are actually doing good, you know, like, trust them and, you know, congratulate them for even doing something, while so many people are doing absolutely nothing to help the world and they're being let off. And not that they should be attacked or anything, but like, we expect nothing of them because they're doing nothing. Then we expect everything of people who are at least doing something good. So I hope that has maybe changed your mind in some way, shape or form. And I just think, yeah, I've said it all. I didn't need to say, really. I just think, yeah, we need to be nicer to people who are doing the good work, and even all try and do something and just change our way of thinking, and the world can be a better place, I think. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Everyone stay safe, be good, be responsible, don't be silly sausages, and I will see you all in next week's video. Bye!